Hello everyone.
My name is Fukasaka. In Japan, it means a man who brings happiness to everyone. I hope all of you who have watched this video to come to Japan with no stress. So today I would like to explain the procedures for entering and staying in Japan. Then, let's get started.
Preface. Japan has two systems: visa and status of residence.
There are many people outside Japan who are not used to the word status of residence, I think. Maybe you usually use the words working visas and student visas, right? But Japan doesn't really have such a formal permit name. Were you surprising to hear that? I guess you thought, like, seriously, what's going on? But look, Japan has adopted the status of residence system instead. Moreover, there are cases where visa permission must be obtained in parallel. What to say? Well, to tell the truth, it's very confusing. But don't worry about it. From now on, we will explain it friendly. Oh, yeah. It is assumed that you have a passport with an expiration date.
Review points. Japan's immigration system is double-checked with visa and status of residence. Visa is a letter of entry recommendation. Status of residence is a residence permit.
Before explaining status of residence, I will explain the role of the visas. The visa is issued by the Japanese embassy in your country, but this is just only a recommendation letter for your entering Japan. It exactly means that this traveler probably won't cause any problems during stay in Japan. So, it is not really an entry permit, seriously. Because of that, Japan has designated about 68 countries and regions as visa-exempt countries. Don't you think it's a lot? Better or worse, it is just a recommendation letter. Oh well, anyway. On the other hand, it is natural, but citizens who are not designated as visa-exempt countries must obtain a visa. Whether you are a citizen of a visa-exempt country or not, you must obtain a visa. If you intend to live in Japan for employment, studying abroad, or being supported by a foreigner living in Japan, I will leave this much about the visa. Well, surely, your image of a Japanese visa has changed a lot? I don't know though. My, excuse me. Don't feel bad. Up to this point, I have talked about entering Japan. But even if you can enter Japan, it doesn't make sense if you can't stay, right? In the next chapter, we will talk about permission to stay in Japan, that is, status of residence. The point is that the procedure for status of residence differs greatly depending on whether you entered Japan for sightseeing or for other purposes. During a temporary stay such as sightseeing, stay screening is easy and speedy. However, if you want to work at a company in Japan or you want to go to an educational institution as an international student, you should get status of residence approval before coming to Japan. Please watch until the end if you possible. Oh, deal. I wanna go to Japan early and try to eat a lot of fresh leaves as soon as possible. Full of stomach. I wish it's smashing me.
Review points. Japanese visa and status of residence have different roles for each other. The visa is a recommendation letter for entering Japan. The status of residence is a permission to stay in Japan for a certain period. Status of residence for temporary stay.
First of all, status of residence is divided into two categories according to the purpose of coming to Japan. The first is for temporary stay. The second is for stays other than temporary stay. Temporary stay is mainly for sightseeing. Other examples also include visiting friends, attending business meetings and events. At Japan's immigration gate, an immigration officer will ask you for your purpose of stay, accommodation and contact information, and the number of days you plan to stay and the other. However, for a very long period of time, the immigration officer suspects, is this person not willing to go home? Well, therefore, you may need to provide proof that you have a return flight ticket and funds for the travel period. To tell the truth, it's on a case-by-case basis. That aside, for now, once they are granted the purpose of your temporary stay, you will be granted a status of residence for short-term stay and will be able to enter Japan safely. Congrats. That said, there are plenty of tour listings those who are completely not aware that their status of residence approval was granted when passing through the immigration gate. This is because Japan's immigration officers are very careful about travelers so as not to spend as much time as possible. Their behavior is very agile and accurate. In conclusion, if your country is a Japanese visa-exempt country and you come to Japan for tourism purposes, you can travel in Japan without worrying about your visa or status of residence at all. Please enjoy freely in Japan life. Try to do this and that around the clock. But there is only one condition. Please do not work in Japan to earn money under any circumstances. Frankly, you will be treated as a criminal if you try to make money with a temporary residence permit. Even if you shout. Even Homer sometimes nods. You will not be forgiven. If that happens, you think you are sit out of luck. By the way, it is expressed in Japanese custom that monkeys also fall from trees. Well, I often fall off the tree and hit my butt. That's why the butt is more red than the cheeks. Ouch. I wish go to Japan early and take a bath in a hot spring to treat my butt. That aside. Anyway, if you want to make money in Japan, you need to get a status of residence other than the temporary stay described in the next chapter.
The purpose of visiting Japan can be roughly divided into two patterns. 1. Temporary stay equal short-term stay. 2. Other purposes equal long-term stay. Immigration for a temporary stay is very speedy and comfortable. However, for purposes other than temporary stay, a visa is required even living in exempt countries.
Well, now from here on is the main subject of this video. Until now, as we've mentioned, for tourists, temporary stays are almost automatically approved. However, even if you can land, there is no point in not obtaining permission to stay, isn't it? No one is coming to Japan for returning home like a dragonfly, I think. In other words, it's necessary to obtain status of residence approval from the Japanese Immigration Bureau. Status of residence has more than 30 types, one of which is a temporary stay. Equal short-term stay. There is no need to worry about the tour as the temporary stay is approved almost automatically. The tourists are automatically granted a temporary residence permit, which belonging to status of residence. So, no worries about it. I think this has already been fully confirmed by travel agencies for people who are keen on traveling to Japan, such as a flock of sheep. A flock of sheep? Hey! It's not rude. What? Contents of this manuscript. I'm pissed off. Who wrote it?
Wow. I'm sorry, my dear, that is my mistake. Yesterday, I ate a roasted sheep for dinner. It was very fantastic. And scrumptious. I still can't forget the taste. Wow, I still even now. Just inadvertently. I can't help doing. Can't help doing. I'm so sorry. Can't help doing. I'm so sorry.
So sorry. A little broadcast accident happened. Apologize for showing unsightly sight. Were you insecure? What happened to her? Is that so? Don't mind. In nature world, tragedy comes suddenly. Don't care about it. Now. Nice to meet you guys. I'll continue to explain as her agent from now on. Well, let's starting. For short-term stays, there is nothing to worry about anything. But the problem lies in how to apply for long-term stays. By the way, long-term stays can be roughly divided into 3 categories. 1. For international students. 2. For worker. 3. For dependents. Dependents is status of residence for families of foreign workers who is living in Japan. Either way, the approval criteria for long-term stays is much higher than for short-term stays. Here is a very important point. If you come to Japan's immigration gate without making any preparations, the immigration officer won't approve the status of residence, which is you desire. That's because each status of residence has approval standards for personal skills or social standings, and you need to clear one of them. Of course, it is necessary to clear the standard of status of residence, which suits your purpose of visiting Japan. Moreover, as you can imagine, just explaining in a conversation that the approval criteria have been cleared won't be accepted by the immigration officer. You need evidence to convince the immigration officer. In conclusion, you need to present official documents, and you must be checked by them one by one. What are the official documents? I'm sure you must have wondered like that, right? For example, a graduation certificate issued by an educational institution, or a certificate of employment issued by your retired company. Depending on your personal situation, there are various types of evidence documents. Of course, the required documents will vary depending on the status of residence, which is you try to get. Of particular note is that if you want to get a status of residence for working, you must conclude an employment contract with your host company, and you need to submit the contract document to the Immigration Bureau, as can be understood from this condition. In short, you must have been received a consent to join in from a Japanese company before applying. If your employment company is undecided, it's impossible to apply for a status of residence for working. By the way, even if you try to get one of the status of residence, when you land in Japan, to be honest, it'll be a pretty tough challenge. Because the immigration officer needs enough grounds to give you it. Namely, all required documents are collected completely, and if not enough, you'll be asked to submit additional attachments. As a result, it is not recommended to perform these tasks at the immigration gate. So, what should I do? You may have felt a little uneasy, but it's okay. There is nothing to worry about. From here, the person in charge will guide you. Hey, it's your turn. Hi everyone. I am the person in charge of pre-procedure. Nice to meet you. If you want to get permission to stay in Japan for long term, you should get a pre-approval of status of residence. Just do it and everything will go smoothly. In Japan, we call the pre-approval is Certificate of Eligibility for Status of Residence. It's also called Certificate of Eligibility for short. By obtaining it before entering Japan, you'll be able to complete the immigration process in a few time and entering Japan easily and reliably. However, this residence certificate won't be issued by the Japanese embassy in your country. It's issued only at the Regional Immigration Bureau in Japan. You've noticed that there is a contradiction, right? I'm sure you must have thought like this way. I've been in a country other than Japan. How can I apply for pre-approval of status of residence from the Immigration Bureau in Japan? That's a big obstacle for you, right? But it's okay. The best way to solve your matter, you should appoint someone living in Japan as your application agent person. The person who can be appointed as the application agent is your relative person, or limited to those who have been granted permission for creating and submitting application by the Immigration Bureau. If you are thinking of coming to Japan as an international student, please consult with a professional staff member at the educational institution you are going to attend. I'm sure there should be a staff member with that permission. If you are thinking of coming to Japan as a worker, ask your hiring organization. In some cases, that is no staff member who has that permission. In that case, you should ask an administrative scrivener who is an expert in proxy application. They are Japanese legal professionals with national qualifications. Unlike lawyers, their main job is to create various documents to be submitted to Japanese government offices. And when you want to take your family who lives outside Japan for living together, you'll be the applicant. But if you are not sure how to apply, in that case, please consult an administrative scrivener. They will be your strong advisor. In any case, once your agent has obtained your certificate of eligibility from the Immigration Bureau, it'll be mailed by international mail from your agent to your country's home at a later date. Do you understand so far? Okay. Let's continue, then. You have to do another job in addition to that. Go to the Japanese embassy in your country, and let's request to be issued an entry visa for Japan. By presenting your certificate of eligibility, so you will be issued a visa much faster. Attention points. Even if you are a Japanese visa-exempt country, you must have a visa to enter the country with a long-term residence status. Please note that there are people who often misunderstand. However, you are all right now. And when you enter into Japan safely, the certificate of eligibility will be exchanged for a plastic residence card. So be sure to submit it to the immigration officer at the time of entry procedures. That's it from me. Thank you. I will take turns as she is back. We are able to meet also. Eh? Did you worry about me? Thank you so much. Please don't care. Actually, after that time, he kept running through my mind persistently. And again I was seduced by him. At last, I lost my belief and decided to marry him. But I am American and he is Japanese. What should we do to officially accept international marriage in Japan? Next time I will talk about procedure for international marriage in Japan. Please register my channel. Thank you lot.